Right, hello, very good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone. Welcome to the first of the Sharing Inspiration series organized by SSEAYP International Singapore. The Sharing Inspiration series, or SIS in short, that's a very cute play of words, right? SSEAYP International Singapore, SSEAYP Inspiration Series, SIS. Okay, so SSEAYP Inspiration Series is a platform where we invite past participating youths of the SHIP for Southeast Asian and Japanese Youth Program, or SSEAYP, on air, and right now it's of course on Facebook, to share with us and how their developments have been after SSEAYP. I'm your host for today. My name is Abdillah, a participating youth from the year 2007. All right, and with me today I have two exceptional youths, all right, from our Singapore contingent, Sherry and Melanie, and both of them were recently featured in the SSEAYP news for their initiatives. For them, serving the community during the COVID pandemic. So welcome to both Sherry and Melanie. Can you both give a hi?
Hello.
Right. Okay. Maybe I'll start with Sherry first. All right, Sherry, maybe could you just introduce yourself to everyone on, who you are, what you're currently working on, your SSEAYP experience, blah, 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 All right. All right, Sherry, all yours.
Wow, that sounds like going to be a very long intro. Okay, so my summary is that I was a SEAP participant in 2010. So that's the 37th SEAP. SEAP journey, honestly, when I signed up, I didn't know I was getting myself into all the pre-departure trainings and all that. But I mean, it was really fun, which we can talk a lot more about that later. So for myself, like career-wise, I started working in, my first career was in Dyslexia Association of Singapore. So I taught kids with dyslexia to read. Then after that, I moved on to Shine Children and Youth Services. And that's where I taught kids with a whole range of special needs, such as autism, ADHD, etc., to read as well. But in 2016, I left my full-time teaching career, and it was partly due to health reasons, which is why you see on this side. Yes, that I have this logo called Autoimmune Diseases Singapore, because I have one myself, and I formed this informal support group in 2013. And so partly due to health reasons, I left my teaching career, but I knew that I wanted to stay in the social service sector. So around like 2017, then I founded Behind SG, which is a grown-up group. Actually, both are grown-up groups to really, inspire acts of kindness via micro volunteering, and we also want to outreach to the special needs community. Yeah. So yes, that's my intro.
All right. Wow. Thank you, Sherry. Wow. That's a lot of wonderful stuff that you have been doing. So I do suppose you are very well versed with a lot of kids, yeah? I suppose, with all that experience.
I mean, it has been a while, like teaching. Yeah, but we did teach a range of kids, like really from the preschool to the secondary school
All right.
students. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sherry. All right. Now over to you, Melanie. Could you, introduce yourself the same way Sherry did? Thank you.
Hi. Hi everyone, I'm Melanie. So I'm from the 45th batch from year 2018. So for what I do now, I am actually in the financial sector for about coming to 7 years now. By mid of this year will be the 7th year. So I'm enjoying it while I still have the energy to keep up. Yeah, so I also volunteer in my community during my free time. I'm actually a grassroots leader. So this takes up quite the bulk of my volunteering time, like my weekday nights, sometimes alternate nights, or even almost every night. Sometimes we go visit families that have raised concerns to us. Weekends wise, it's mostly the time when we organize events. Of course, that has taken a back seat now during this current pandemic, but we are finding alternatives to engage with our community members. Weekends, every month, we actually have a reading program for our children, so that's quite interesting as well. I'm actually watching them grow up. It's quite crazy. So currently, I'm focusing on some of the newer appointments I have in the grassroots, especially since 1 year ago, like I mentioned, the whole pandemic really challenged the whole grassroots, how to change our thinking from something very established to trying the new ways to engage with residents beyond just having events, physically meeting them. and how we can better help them adapt during this period of a new normal, is what we have been calling it. Aside from that, another project, so-called, I would call it, is in my church. I actually help with the kindergarten team, in which we're actually transforming the kindergarten to meet the needs better of the community by making it into a childcare center to provide for longer hour cares as well. So it's a very new space for me. I don't have my own children, but I'm looking forward to see what changes it can bring and the new experiences that I'll gain in this aspect. Yeah, so
All
that's a
right.
short intro.
Okay, wow. There is no short intro for the both of you. Okay, so it's wonderful to hear both of you, from the both of you and the work that both of you are doing. Seems like both of you are, getting involved in a lot of things in the community. Sherry, of course, with your work initially, and then of course now you running your own GUI, Ground Up Initiative, and then of course Melanie, despite you being so tied up with work already in the financial industry, you're still making time to contribute, not just with your community through the RCCC channel, the PA channel, but also through your church as well. So I guess that's very inspiring to hear. Indeed, well suitable for this inspiration series, no doubt. All right. Maybe both of you can share a little bit about your experience on board SSEAYP itself. Anything memorable that happened? Was there anything that happened on SSEAYP itself? That led you on this path that you are on, regardless whether it's on your career path or on the community path that both of you are on. Maybe I can get Melanie to answer first.
What's memorable and sad, besides the dozing off during our DG sessions? Yeah. So other than that, I think for me, it's not so much in the structured programs, but really the effort that we put in to get to know all the PYs, the unstructured part where we start writing letters to each other, and we have to be very proactive to go out there and make friends with the other youth delegates from the region. I think the most memorable for me is this part where I actually got to make friends with some of them, and even up to this day, despite the pandemic, we still keep in touch over WhatsApp, over Facebook. We do have calls on our birthdays, so it's quite heartwarming when you keep these connections, and we're updated like when we graduate, when we start a new career. Yeah, I think that's very nice. How it has motivated me? Well, I think these are friends that we have a similar agenda despite being coming from different regions around ASEAN. We have community leaders in like the Philippines, in Japan, in Indonesia, and the works that they are doing there really inspire me. I think when I went on SEAP, it was in 2018. I think back then, or maybe even now, if you have the perception that grassroots is like old people, right? Um, I think that was also at the back of my mind. How do we get younger people to join the grassroots? I mean, grassroots will only be what its people make it to be. So if we attract the younger ones, then of course it will be a younger dynamics, and we will be able to cater to the younger population as well. So having the encouragement, seeing how the youth actually um, do it outside Singapore and they keep going and the projects that they are doing, I think it really helped to motivate me, because sometimes in the grassroots, when you are one of the minority in terms of age group, uh, you're sometimes a bit fearful of doing things. But watching my friends out there daring to push for change in their own space, watching their passion, seeing how they pursue their passion for certain projects, I think that really helped to keep me going lah, and never to give up. Yeah. So to me, that is the strongest part that keep me going and taking up even new roles like vice chair in my RC right now. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Wonderful. Thank you, Melanie. Yeah, I guess I do suppose, whatever you shared does resonate with probably a lot of us as well. Especially when, for those of us who have been on SEAP, we will understand very clearly that, our fellow youths overseas have a bigger challenge in terms of engaging, and in spite of the challenges, they still push through and they're so motivated. So I'm glad to hear, that's how you get your motivation. Sherry, yourself, memorable moments, anything that led you on this path that you are today?
think I definitely agree with Melanie, like what Abdillah, what you said. Like even though like so for me, Xiao was now 11 years ago, but we still keep in touch, and I think especially through social media right now. That I mean, within these few years, they have been coming. Some of them have been coming over to Singapore, and we've been meeting up and all that. But now we can't. So it's really through social media that we keep in contact. But I'm so heartened to see some of the SEAP youth leaders from 11 years ago, what they were advocating for to, be still working on it in such a challenging circumstance. I guess for me, the memorable moments for SEAP were actually the pre-departure training with my Singaporean mates. Even though, now 11 years down the road, everybody has, a lot of us have moved on to like different phases of life. It's not able to catch up as much, but I really do cherish those, like those young and wild days, like they call it pre-departure training. I'm sure both of you went through the weekday evenings, the late night suppers, the like don't have to care whether the next day you got to go to work. One very strange at that point of time. And then now you think you can't do that anymore. To the whole SEAP journey where it's I think especially I think a lot of us probably remember our home visits, our host visits, our family visits. Up till now, the kind of gracious, the gracious attitude that they had shown to, the youth that I mean we are not their family. It's the first time they met them. Sometimes there's language barrier, but they tried so hard, to overcome that and just use our universal language of, smiles and body language to welcome. So I'm very touched by that. And I will always remember that, if someone from SEAP comes over, I'll be a gracious host and do the same. So that's, then how it inspired for my current journey is I think that, I really receive a lot of kindness from people around me. And there was one incident that I think SEAP played a major part. So in 2014, it was my first time to Japan. I was traveling with Diana. Abdillah, you know her as well. Yeah. It was our first time to Japan. And, we were very happy because we went Osaka and then we were in Kyoto. So Osaka, we did our, whole USJ trip. So happy, Harry Potter, to see, so delighted. So after that, we were like, okay, next part of the journey, let's go Kyoto. So the very first day, after, we went to our Airbnb host place. Then the very first day we went out, I remember we were supposed to go to this Imperial Palace. So we got out of the train station. It was autumn and it was a bit cold. So I had this super long scarf that I was wearing, which I didn't have time to to wrap it up because we were in a hurry to get there. And then this cyclist, this lady cyclist, she cycled past me. So there was a bit of wind. So my scarf, the end of the scarf actually caught in her wheel and she didn't know. I mean, she just moved forward and I fell very heavily on the concrete ground. I didn't know at that point of time, but I actually broke my hip bone. I didn't know because yes, it took a while longer to get up. And I told Diana that there was no way I can still do this tour because it involves a lot of working. So we took a cab back to Airbnb, but I never knew it was so serious because, you could still move. It's just that when we reached there and then, the lady had to go out and then she just told us, maybe you just lie on the tatami, for now and rest. So that lie became like about 3 hours after she came back and then she was like, okay, I need to send you to A&E. So it was very dramatic, it was a suburb area with, very elderly aunties and uncles, this ambulance coming in and sending me to the hospital. And to cut a long story short, I got a surgery to put 3 screws to fix the fracture, but I had to stay 1 month in the hospital in Kyoto alone. I mean, Diana had to go back because it's part of this leisure travel. And so SEAP really played a very big part because, when you were during that SEAP journey, right, it's impossible that you are able to speak personally to all, 300 to 400 participants. I mean, even as much as you wanted to, it was just not possible. But I think as soon as word spread out, I remember the first Japanese PY that came was Ryoko. Thank you so much. I never spoke to her on board the ship. We never, really connected, but she came because she knew that, I was from SEAP and, she's nearby. So she came. And then after that, actually, a lot of SEAP people came, like, I was closer to those who stayed in Tokyo, and I was very touched that they took the bullet train all the way down to Kyoto because it's not cheap. I know that it's not, and it's like 1 whole day, and And they actually like, and even the LPYs that time in Tokyo, I think they were studying there. So I think 5 or 6 of them came down and then pushed me out of my wheelchair to the park to see the autumn leaves. Very, very cute, very, very, very concerned. I still remember this JPY Achan, because they had to navigate some steps to go and see some of the leaves. And they were so worried about just leaving me behind even for like 1 minute. Okay, so Achan was like, okay, I tell you how to say help in Japanese, okay? So like that 1 minute you need help, just shout help in Japanese. So touching, you know. And then not only them, like even SSEAYP alumni from Japan, you know, like I don't know, directors. And I mean honestly, there was some language barrier, but I was just very touched that they just wanted to see that I'm okay. Even SSEAYP, I think Singaporeans alumni, we aren't super close, but you know, I know they routed their way to the hospital to kind of meet me. So sorry, very long story, but I just wanted to share that. I was just very, very touched. You know, I think it really put me through that 1 month in the hospital, because you're alone, you're like totally alone, and no one speaks English in the hospital.
Yeah.
Everyone is very nice, but you know, I think only my doctor speaks some
English.
English. Yes, yeah, it was really a lifesaver. So the friendships that you have made, even people that, you know, just the word SSEAYP, I think like you just united everyone together. So
Yep.
yes.
Okay. All right. So I guess it's a very the different experiences that both of you have, and how SSEAYP actually changes you, right? Yeah. Of course, I understand for some of the PYs out there, what happened on SSEAYP is what inspired you and motivated you towards what you are doing today. But for individuals like Sherry, it's not just what happened on board, but what happened after the SSEAYP program itself is what gravitated you to, you know, probably to lead you to Be Kind SG, right? It's not just about being kind to, you know, to anyone, but, you know, just be kind to everyone, right? So having said that, to be kind to everyone, you know, to, of course, contribute to everyone in Singapore, and both of you, of course, during at the height of the pandemic last year, especially during the circuit breaker period, this is where, you know, I suppose many Singaporeans were extremely worried about how this virus works, how invincible it was, and yet, you know, while most people were staying at home, both of you actually decided to take up arms and do something about it. Sherry, maybe you can start off first to share about what you did during the pandemic.
Okay. I guess the very first thing that we did, actually in end Jan, I think, and early Feb, so we used to volunteer very regularly at the adult disability homes, a bit like what Melanie said. We had to, now we shifted all our volunteering, but we used to go like 20 people to 30 people to the homes, or bring them out for outings. I still remember until now, our last outing was on 2nd February. Until now, we haven't seen them. But anyway, so at that point of time, you know, all our volunteering activities had to stop very abruptly. And then I recall that I was reading the newspaper, and then, you know, it was just very panicky. If you remember, end Jan, it was the panic buying on masks. Then after that, subsequently, it's groceries. But I think the panic buying on masks, it really, and because it was so unknown, right? I mean, now maybe we kind of roughly know what it is, but it was so unknown, and everybody was so fearful and anxious. You can really feel the anxiety on the air. Just very weird. You go out, you can slice the air. So much anxiety. And then I realized that we were reading all these like newspaper articles about, oh, today got how many cases, or like 2, 3, and then we sent to this place called NCID that we're now so familiar with. But at that point of time, I think no one really knew what it was. So that was when I had I had the time, because at Be Kind SG, besides all this volunteering with the special needs community, right, we also try to appreciate and encourage, we call them some less visible communities. So even before the pandemic, we started appreciating like transport staff, foreign domestic workers, etc., etc. So, and healthcare staff as well. So during this pandemic, I thought, okay, you know, we have to appreciate the healthcare staff right at the beginning. Yeah, and that was when I emailed them, and I thought it was a few hundred people, according to my contacts at some hospitals, but I don't know why it turned out to be 7,000. And I was like really shocked, because I was one person. I really thought that I could do it alone, that's just to pack 7,000 care bags, and I was very insistent on the 7,000 thank you cards. I don't know why, but it all came together. Very luckily, a lot of schools jumped on board, companies sponsoring care bags, etc., etc. So we managed to pull that out within 3 weeks. I think that was a very kind of like iconic project in a way, a biggest project, logistically challenging project they have done. But I feel that what's equally important are like all the little, all the projects along the way, because it was kind of like a battle already. And we didn't say, so what happened was that I think a lot of non-profit organizations started, were in very challenging circumstances, not just for their clients. Of course, their first thought is always for their clients, but for their staff, as well, because everybody had to make so much adjustments. So we on our end, we looked towards the communities that we are volunteering with, and we tried to support their staff. But at the same time, quite a few different non-profit organizations that we have not worked with before came to us to ask, can you support us with, care packs or sponsorships or things like that. So I was actually kept very, very busy during this whole period, coordinating all these things, but I never really thought so much about it. It's really, really like this is a crisis. Everybody must be on board. Whether you have the time, you have the money, you have the resources, you have to do something. And I was very touched because a lot of strangers actually reach out to me at that point of time, or it's kind of like you need carrot box, next day you need fruits, like 2 days you will have them. So it's just a lot of work to coordinate all that. I mean, I shan't go into all the details, but we did quite a lot for we think we at least we work with over 15 different non-profit organizations for the whole of last year.
Right.
I'll
Nice.
let
Nice.
Melanie share.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you did. There's a lot of stuff that you did, lah. For sure. And I'm sure you're still doing quite a lot of stuff. So we'll get into that later on. Melanie, yourself. Well, at the height of the pandemic, what was it that you did that made it to the news on the SSEAYP news here?
Uh, okay, I have a lot of things to share. I think like what Sherry said, it was a time where we wanted to gather up, and regardless of whatever resources we had, just give our little bit and see where we can go. Like Sherry mentioned, it was very heartwarming. You see a lot of organizations coming together, pulling resources together. Just for myself, I see churches offering lodging for our migrant workers. Yeah, all these things are very heartwarming. I think for myself, that helped me to also decide that I cannot just be sitting back and hoping for this pandemic to be over. Thankfully, I didn't, because it's 1 year on. So I think let me share some of the projects. Very briefly, one relating to SSEAYP was because, as Sherry mentioned, after SSEAYP, the friendship continues. They travel, we travel. Traveling is so part of our lives, but suddenly this is taken away from us. And I think what I really miss was the friendships and the community beyond just our local Singapore context. So um, what I did was actually just to ask everyone in my batch to actually shout out like a hi and which country they're from, and encourage each other as we stay home to stay safe from the whole pandemic. After the first run of this, which was just for a short 1 week, some of the JPYs from my batch came on board and say, hey, let's ask everyone to take a photo to see what they're doing in their homes, and spread it around as well. So with that, we ran a second round of this, and where people uploaded like encouragement quotes, what they're doing at home, a lot of food. So definitely you start missing your food from Philippines, Laos, and all these things. And we put it all into a collage to encourage everyone around SSEAYP. Yeah, so we had people from different batches even submitting. So that was very heartwarming to see how strong the bonds are. Yeah, so that was one of it that I did. The other one that I shared in the inspirational stories, as Abdillah called it, is actually to start this virtual tuition. I think for myself, previously in my younger days, I used to be a tutor. So the first concern I have is um, what happens when students are all forced to go back home, and children being children generally don't like to study. So what more without the teacher there to breathe down your necks and like, yeah, you must study, you must pay attention in class. Yeah. So I actually initiated this with some of my grassroots leaders to have a virtual consultation, in which we actually managed to gather 4 or 5 tutors, and we targeted at the key level, so like primary 4, P6, Sec 2 because they're streaming, and Sec 4. Then for those that needed like consultation, because these are critical years, we actually asked them to register, and we hosted like a virtual consultation, which I guess at certain ages you're not so open to that concept, so it became like a tuition come consultation sort of thing. So I thought that was a very useful platform. We had quite a few coming on board. So I think that was a good thing. We even got testimonials from some of them. So it was very heartwarming. They actually asked us whether we were going to continue into this year. But unfortunately, we didn't bring it into this year because we don't want to strip the tuition centers of their business. Yeah. But of course, for the needy families, we still continue to provide like group on-site tuition in smaller groups. Yeah, so these are some of the activities that we did. I really like what Sherry shared about the Be Kind movement. I was part of a smaller kindness movement as well to encourage acts of kindness be to intentionally look out for such act of kindness and actually share it around to make it part of our daily lives, to honor the people around us, be it just a simple thank you to the sweepers or even thank you to someone who holds the lift for you. Yeah.
Right, nice. Thank you, Melanie, for sharing. Very interesting. Sharings from Sherry and Melanie. Very different activities, yet uh, all still branched out and still coming back to the community. For my own batch itself, for my own batch, the 2007 batch during the pandemic, actually what we did was something similar to what Melanie did. A few of us actually got together. We started talking on Zoom. We missed one another so much, right? Like both of you mentioned, you can't travel anymore. You miss listening, hearing, looking at one another's faces. So what some of them decided to do, they suggested, let's fold paper cranes. So we started folding paper cranes, and then what they wanted to do was to have this video where we could pass the crane, like as if the crane is being passed from one person to the next, and it traveled basically to whichever country, whoever is on board, right? So we actually managed to do that. And then of course the other one was this next one was initiated by Desmond Boy, right? I think it's Sherry's, is it your NL, right, Sherry? Yeah, so Desmond Boy, he invited me along to get involved in this singing. It's to do a music video to sing one of the SSEAYP songs that was written by my own batchmate, Julu. Okay, at this point in time, I cannot remember what's the song anymore. Yeah, so he managed to get together several PYs actually from
You
the
can
whole
sing for us.
sorry, it's okay. Yeah, so Desmond actually managed to gather, a whole bunch of PYs to sing, to record themselves singing. Of course, thankfully, I'm not involved. Otherwise, I think the whole video will crash, right? So let's move on from there. Okay. All right. So Melanie, you were doing this tuition thing, and it's all online, right? So, what were the challenges that you faced in trying to implement this tuition consultation thing, and how did you and your team manage to overcome this?
So yeah, and like I mentioned, we had 4 to 5 tutors. Everyone was like, oh, we don't really know what to do. So we just started off with a very simplistic concept. But of course, um, me being someone who is very worried, and I always try to plan for the worst, right? In the first week, I actually set in all the tuition sessions, um, and was taking notes. Like, oh, maybe this part a bit difficult. Sometimes got technical error or whatever. So these are the things that I will do. So in the first week, when I sat in with the tutors, I actually was observing. I told them to pretend I'm not there, or if it doesn't help, then pretend I'm one of the students. So, so through that session, like for example, one of the notes that I took down was like, I think we started off, a lot of the tutors were just showing the questions, And when they go through the solution, it was just a verbal like, oh, you must take A multiplied by B, then you get AB. Then if it's A times B times B is AB squared. But you see, all of us start visualizing in our heads, right? Uh, but students sometimes may take a longer time when they're learning. So it's not so easy for them to visualize, or they might visualize something totally different. So what one of the tutors did that I thought was very good, so I noted that down, was actually they made use of the whiteboard function. So she actually switched that on, and she was able to write it as she verbalized it. So that was a very good way that students get to be able to see how it is done, even though we are virtual and we're not there beside them and writing step by step with them. Yeah. So this is what some of the things that we do. We help to share notes. So I consolidate, and then at the end of that 1 week, I shared it with all the tutors lah, some of the difficulties and then what you can try to do. So it's quite interesting. I think all of them found that part very useful.
Oh,
So over time it got more standardized, but it's okay because I mean we are just putting in the best practices and what we can give the students. Yeah. So I think that
nice.
was a good way to overcome it lah. I think as a group, because each of us have the difficulty, we might not think of the solution, but someone else has.
Right, right. That's right. That's right. Of course. And I agree. That students will tend to visualize something else, especially if you're doing algebra, right? So you say A plus that one. Forget it, man. If I was the student, I'll think of something else. Really far, far away. All right. Okay. Sherry, yourself. Of course, you probably had a huge challenge already, like you mentioned, trying to pack 7,000 care packs. But you managed to get the schools on board. So how did the schools actually come on board, you see?
So initially, I approached a few friends, lah, just two or three. I mean, I was thinking whether it's possible, but because the two or three, when I approached them, they said, okay, can. I think 200-300 is possible. So that's when I got a hope, okay, if one school can have 200-300 possible. So some of them, then they started asking their other teacher friends in other schools. But I'm not sure how actually. I mean, it's like 1 year ago, but somehow the word spread quite quickly actually. And then we had like different schools coming and then I mean initially I didn't have this idea, but as more schools came about, then I realized that it'd be great if we could get a whole range of ages of students to be able to contribute, and also the special needs schools, because sometimes my parent friends who are children with special needs do tell me that our children, we would like our children to contribute, but sometimes the projects are maybe like too rushed in a way. The children need a little bit longer time, but thankfully we were still able to engage some schools like Pathlight, Rainbow Center. The kids did the cards in school, and I was very touched because one of the Pathlight teacher told me that this little exercise, because it became a gratitude exercise, right, really helped to ease the anxiety and fear in the students. So some of the students may not be able to verbalize it, that why they're feeling anxious or whether they're feeling scared, but because they pick up on the news and they pick up on their parents' feelings. So the teacher told me that after that they are like a little bit more settled, and then their thoughts also, shifted the whole perspective from being maybe afraid for my parents, for myself, for my family, to being very grateful to the healthcare workers. And then some of them very cute, like when you're a student, they will say, oh, I want to be a healthcare worker next time. So even gave them their ambitions. I would like to go back to Melanie's point about how you had to shift to virtual volunteering, right? And our challenges, because before the pandemic, we were so regular. I think every month, at least 3 to 4 times, we are at a different adult disability home. So when we had to shift to virtual volunteering, and also when the home was ready for it, it was really very tough because we can only engage a very small group of residents each time, and that is some language barrier. I mean, even at home, there's really language barrier, but you overcome that with, your smiles, your body gesture, being close to them, and they love that a lot. But in Zoom, that the physical presence is really no longer there. And that was a major part of the way we communicate with them, So we had to But I mean, they love things like the bingo law. So we actually we never had bingo in the home before. So it in a way also presented some opportunities. Like we never played bingo with them before. So not bingo, sorry. What's that called? Pictionary. Yeah, we never played Pictionary with them before. So you use the same like Melanie, same as you use the whiteboard and then draw. And then they have to guess, even though sometimes it was very hard to hear, like because they are at a distance away. We engage, like for example, like different performers to engage them. Though I'm running out of ideas very soon already. But I thought one very heartening, which happened this year, was that I managed to pull in some overseas volunteers, even though they were like at different, okay, just like 1 hour difference. So I had this idea that maybe we could get someone in Japan. I didn't get a SEAYP. I couldn't get a SEAYP participant in time, unfortunately, but we got someone's friend in Tokyo who could speak Mandarin as well. So she showed us the cherry blossoms in Tokyo during that virtual volunteering session. And then we had this ballet dancer from Jakarta, which I knew from another program. She agreed to do it for us. But actually, when she agreed to it, she didn't kind of share with me the challenging circumstances that Jakarta was in. So I didn't know that performance venues or even like small studios were closed. Like she couldn't access her studio to do that for us. So what she did was she danced on the rooftop of her house, her open rooftop under the very, very hot sun, and we could see. And she had to drag like because she had to drag mattresses. She can't dance on the on the concrete. So she had to drag mattresses then the bar onto the rooftop to dance her ballet duet. So it was very touching that even though yes, pandemic is very challenging, but in a way it presented some opportunities, right, for all these virtual volunteering, even from overseas. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. I mean, I agree, of course. With the pandemic, everything changes, right? The way we engage people. Of course, I do miss that human touch that Sherry was talking about. I still remember when I was an active volunteer. That was the one thing that I look forward to, going down to meet the people on the ground themselves. Where at times they just need a hug, they just need someone to hold their hand, right? Yeah, so I guess that's the thing that was missing in this pandemic. But of course, we all have to make do with whatever we can through technology. And it's wonderful, of course, to hear from the both of you for the efforts that that you have done, and for Sherry, of course, with your contacts overseas, who made the extra effort, in spite of the conditions in their own country. Definitely hats off to them. Uh, so Sherry, of course, in for all the effort that you did, you actually received several accolades, including one from the Republic of Singapore President Halima herself. Share with us, how was it like? How did you feel about it?
Actually, no, one accolade from our president. How did I feel? Very actually, there's the nomination process, right? So it was the non-profit organizations that approached me, and actually at that point of time, I already felt, that was enough already, because I was approached by 4 different non-profit organizations to nominate me. So, namely Singapore Kindness Movement, SingHealth Community Hospital, Singapore International Foundation, National Kidney Foundation. So actually at that point of time, I was very, very grateful to the staff because the form is not easy to fill in. The questions to answer and the number of words to write, that takes a lot of effort, and to, want to do that during this pandemic when they have a lot of work, actually piling work on the desk. I was actually really already very touched, by that process. But of course, yes, I mean, it was really a privilege to be at the Istana in the pandemic to, to receive the award. But I think I want to share with people is that really what is most important is the your groundwork. I mean, we don't share this very often. Usually what you see are the media articles, the awards. But actually, yes, I mean everyone does very hard work. But I mean, there are programs that I've applied for that I failed to get in. There are awards that people have nominated me for, but I failed. I mean, I didn't get in. No, I think these are the things that people don't talk about, but it's so important. It's not, everyone's efforts are worthy, and yes, the award is affirming lah, but you shouldn't feel that if you don't have an award, your work wasn't worth it. It's not. Everyone is doing so much work, and I just wish that everyone can be awarded for all their efforts during during this period. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Right. Very nice. Very, very down to earth, Sherry. Very humble too. Okay. Of course, I would agree that yes, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes that that a lot of people don't see, don't hear of. They only see the accolades. They only see the news articles that appear, and they're like, "Wow, so power! You get this. Wow, what do you do? You got to do a lot, man." You see, most of the time that's how people feel, but. Of course, as a former volunteer myself, I understand that there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, and a lot of time the work stretches back even many years behind before it picks up momentum to build into what we would like to call a following, right? Only then of course the recognition comes in. But of course, for the both of you, I truly believe that recognition doesn't matter because work still goes on. Work still has to be done on the ground, and what matters most is, of course, the people on the ground itself, the ones that you are trying to help the most, right? So for the both of you, maybe you can share. For all our viewers out there, maybe if they would like to contribute, they would like to start volunteering, start getting engaged with the work that you are doing. Okay, how can they step forward? Where can they go to? What are the avenues available for them? Of course, I know where to go to lah. Okay, but for those out there, maybe both of you can share, where can they go to? Maybe Melanie, you can share for yourself, of course, if they would like to get involved in the children's work that you're doing with the church, where can they go to? Or with the community work that you're involved in, where can they go to, maybe you can share, Melanie.
Okay, so before I share, shout out to my batch PYs who are messaging me. Hi, thanks for coming down to uh support me. I don't know why, but yeah, thanks for hearing me chatter away again lah. I know I'm very talkative. Okay, so for the rest that are hoping or thinking about wow, what we're doing is something you want to do, I think reach out to anyone that you know in the field. So for myself, I would recommend if you just want to take your first step in volunteering to reaching out to the community is this place called Kampong Kakis. I think they have actually came out quite a bit in the news. Not trying to advertise there, but it started from my very own hometown of Gigpo. So yeah, do support them. They are actually a whole national-wide movement now. They will actually they need volunteers to pair up with the kakis in need. When I say in need, it really means like a friend in need. I have a few of them. I actually just visited one of the moms in a rental flat recently. Her son is so cute, 2 years old. The mom is actually around my age. So you start to make friends, just start small. It's really like just making a friend out there, and you realize that um, actually all this volunteering becomes like every day how you hang out with your friends, because yeah, it's very easy to just make it a lifestyle. Of course, if you are looking at any ground up movement, I will say go to the CC, go to anyone in the grassroots, maybe not your CC, even if you don't know anyone, you can come to me or any of the PYs out there in the grassroots. Many of us are. We will try to link up the resources for you. Yeah. So in terms of children, if you want to enroll your kids or be part of parent support group, you can come to me also. We are looking for a parent support group to support the children in the kindergarten, as well as we are looking at having a fund that will actually help to extend these financial needs to the needy children in the community as well. So yeah, I think it just take a first step, take a bold step out. It might not be comfortable, but don't worry, just do it. You never know where it will bring you. To me, I always believe that action is up to you to take. We can sit there and whine about things and talk to the cows come home, but action is the one that will bring all our passion, all our thoughts, all our dreams for a better society into reality lah. Okay.
All right, thank you, Melanie. And Sherry, if they like to be involved in, the activities that you're currently doing or organizing, where can they look for you or head to?
I think I'd like to also like like what Melanie said actually initially. She said about like intentional acts of kindness, which I think that's what we aim to do. Because no one person can do everything. No one group, no one grown up movement can do everything. So for Be Kind SG, we really hope to be sowing these seeds of kindness, so that everyone is very intentional. Every day you just do something small. It doesn't need to be a very big gesture. You must donate lots of money, or you must take up 2 hours at a time. Sometimes, saying hi, be very intentional too. It's very hard to step out of comfort zone. I totally understand. You just want to be at home sometimes, but if you just step out of comfort zone just to knock on the door and just to say hi to your neighbor, not attaching, and not expecting that the response will be like super friendly or something like that. But knowing that you had reached out in kindness, they will remember. Because during the pandemic, I actually hung like I don't really know my neighbors. I hung a hand sanitizer and a note with my phone number and a photo of me and my husband, so that it's not like suspicious package. Yes. So even though like we didn't really get to meet, but some of them text me back and just said thank you. I didn't need any help. Like I said that if you need any help with groceries, just let us know. But they kind of texted back, and I think it just created this little bit, just a little bit more. I wouldn't say that we are all like super close, but it just created a little bit more of that neighborliness. So uh, if you run out of ideas, I guess you can like unfollow like Be Kind SG. And if you do any of these acts of kind, you want to share with us. Yeah, because we want to spread your stories, and hopefully then that will inspire someone else to take action as well. Some other websites that I think Melanie mentioned about Kampong Kakis. I also like to share about one group that started SG Assist. It's an app. I thought it's brilliant. You download the app, and and you see like someone needs assistance, and if it's somewhere near you and you have that time to do that little bit or something, then just step forward and do it. I think the last one I'll share is a new project of Be Kind SG, which I have to share. It's called play.able.sg. It's also a Facebook page, but what it does is that we actually have a safe space at Rainbow Center, Margaret Drive, for caregivers and children with special needs enrolled in our special education school to play and to be able to borrow like a range of educational toys. Yeah, so I hope that if you know of anyone, that could use this space, please, yeah, the Facebook page is playable SG. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to bond and things like that, you can approach us now. We are very in the beginning, so we may not be able to respond immediately, but we are really looking forward to doing like some workshops and events for these children and their parents. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, wonderful. So I guess the good thing now is because we are in, I don't know, phase 3 plus, right? Where most of us are allowed to go back out there. We can start to have events and activities again. So we can definitely have some of that human touch once again. So for those of you who are interested, you like to be involved with Melanie and Sherry. You want both of them to be with you when you volunteer. I'm very specific here. You want both of them to be with you when you volunteer. Then of course you can head on to all those places where they shared earlier on. Okay. So before we end, of course, we are running out of time. It's about 10 more minutes. Before we end, Melanie, Sherry, maybe both of you would like to, give your concluding remarks first. Anything to share, Melanie?
Concluding remarks is that this is really just the beginning. I hope that whatever we have shared has inspired you, that just a little thought can take you very far. I don't think we are any super people here. We are just any normal Singaporean just trying to make a change, make our community a bit better. So it's something that is not hard. Anyone on the streets can do it, so long you make an intentional effort lah. Yeah, so that part I think is something that resonates with this panel here today. We have been talking about the intentionality of your thoughts, of your actions. So with this, I hope that we have inspired you, and don't just sit on it. Take your first step, register, online. Sign up, maybe if you're not sure yet, sign up for those newsletters of those VWOs, and sometimes they blast out opportunities, and through those opportunities you can actually like, this opportunity this Saturday I'm actually free and I can actually reach out and spend my time. So we hope that with this, it's not just like, wow, it's so inspirational to hear from us, but it's more like we will help to ignite that flame in you to take the first step, or maybe not the first step, but the steps that will help you to continue on this journey. I think that's really our dream, especially in Singapore, that we become a society that really cares for our neighbors, and we work together, uh, on all this to make Singapore really a place that we all enjoy living in, filled with kindness, filled with love, and we complement each other, because Singapore definitely have no lack of talents out there. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Melanie, for those inspiring words. Okay. Sherry, yourself, last words for everyone out there listening.
Like what Melanie said, it only takes a first step. And sometimes we think that step is very hard, but I want to share that it is not so hard. I think first we need to be very conscious of our surroundings. I think in such a busy city as Singapore, we tend to rush from task to task, and even while walking, on the train, we are very shut to our own thoughts and our own little bubble because of the lifestyle, I would say. But if we could be very conscious, like even on the train, to look out, you know, to just have that intentional thought, like just to look out to see what people are doing. Is there someone that might need some form of support? Do go ahead. I think LTA just launched a campaign about caring SG commuter. I think they even have a kind of like a website for you to sign up, like how to be a caring SG commuter. They will teach you ways and all that. But I really think that sometimes it really comes from the heart, and that stepping out of the comfort zone to do it, because sometimes we have a lot of thoughts. It happens to me as well. It's not like it's my instinct that I will run over to do it, but I always like just kind of force myself and not be a bystander. Like just a very recent incident. I think there was this lady at North Point that spilled her Starbucks drink because I think the paper bag broke. But when I saw her already, the drink is already spilled, and she was just trying to sort of very kanchong and just trying to clear up. And actually, there were a lot of people. A lot of people just walk around her, and even though I didn't do much actually, I just went to her and just tried to throw away some of the things that had to be thrown, and reshuffle all her things. And that she was so distressed, over that small incident, because everybody was walking around, and there were even some that like made some like remarks which were very uncalled for, like, oh, like, such a mess, things like that. But I told her, not to put it on heart, because it's actually a very small matter that you spilled something and then it will go away. But don't, because of that, then it pulls your whole day. And I think that it just takes that little bit of encouragement. So I wish that everybody would be more conscious lah. And probably a website that if you want to really start volunteer is our national SG Cares website, where I think most of the NPOs registered, if they have if they are really urgently in need of volunteers, they will put the opportunity there. Yeah, so take the first step to find that website and register for your account. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Sherry. And of course, I totally agree with both of them. To start volunteering, if you don't know where or what to do, the first things first you need to have is, of course, your intention is most important. What is it that you want to do? Once you know your intention, and you're very specific, maybe for some of you, of course, a specific group of people that you like to help, then of course you can just go straight to that particular organization, just write into them, and I'm sure they'll write into you back, more than happy to have you, because NPOs are always in need of volunteers, as far as I know, as a former volunteer myself. Okay. Of course, well, that pretty much wraps up our first series here for SSEAYP Inspiration series. Okay. So there will be more to come, hopefully. So for those of you out there, if you'd like to hear more about specific people, of specific Singapore PYs that have been inspiring, that have inspired you, don't forget, drop a comment, write down in the comments box there, who you'd like to hear about, or maybe there's any other activity that you'd be interested to hear about, to know more about, write in the comment box as well. All right. So we're gonna end soon. Before we end, of course, I'd like to say a huge thank you once again to Melanie and Sherry, and of course, a wonderful job to the both of you. Thank you so much for your continuous contribution to Singaporeans. Okay, I think that's most important. For all our PYs out there who are listening, or maybe you're not a PY yet, but you're watching in, of course, please follow the SSEAYP International Singapore Facebook page, and of course, keep yourself abreast of the news and changes, not just in Singapore about the pandemic or COVID, but also, of course, about what's happening with SSEAYP International Singapore and all the activities that SIS is going to throw out for you. Okay, and from me, of course, I'd like to wish everyone, especially the Muslims, okay, a happy fasting month ahead, and hope to see all of you again soon in the near future. Thank you, everyone. Peace out.